Want to talk a little bit about dumbing down as I see it. Now, just a disclaimer, this video is entirely subjective. I'm not going to pretend that I'm being, um, objective with this. It's entirely my own opinions. But I think it is noticeable on both sides of the Atlantic, actually. I think it's very prevalent in American media, but we're not totally free from it either. When you get someone like Piers Morgan, who is extremely opinionated, and you get clickbait videos from Good Morning Britain. I always get Good Morning Britain and This Morning. I think it's Good Morning Britain that Morgan is on. I always get them mixed up. But you get clickbait titles like Piers Morgan is astonished by this, or Piers Morgan, he's very much the poster boy for British media sensationalism. And yet he is a very experienced newsman. I don't think that can be denied. He is a long-standing insider. He knows how the industry works. So I wouldn't underestimate Piers Morgan, although I find him pretty insufferable at times. Um, but I've just watched a video with the CNN contributor Anna Navarro. Now, she's a registered Republican, Hispanic, of course, and she's pretty outspoken. But the video was literally entitled, it was a debate on immigration. I'm not sure who her opponent was. I didn't watch the whole thing. I went to the point in question, which she was obviously tired of the angle he was taking, so she decided to file her nails, literally, or at least imply that she was filing her nails, and then she just got into yelling at him. Now, my issue is not the rights and wrongs of her argument. My issue is that is an indicator of where the American media is, or at least a big segment of it, because a lot of people were praising her like that's some sort of wonderful thing. I'm thinking, no, that's just crass and unprofessional. Whatever you feel about her politics or anyone else's politics, that's just unprofessional. And I think the fact that, a lot of comments were supportive is an indication of where we are at. I think a lot of American media today is about punditry, and you get it on left and right. This isn't something that's unique to either side. Okay, you get it on Fox News and you get it on CNN. So both camps are guilty of this. And obviously, I'm not American. If I was, I would probably be classed as a moderate. And I find it very off-putting. These pundits really need to get over themselves. I understand it's their job to debate and opinionate, and it works for the ratings. But I'm thinking of someone like the late Jim Lehrer. Now, he was a great journalist. He was comprehensive. He'd done his homework. I'm thinking of the presidential debates he moderated. I believe he moderated Bush, Dukakis in 1988, and a few others. Um, to me, he was a really stand-up journalist. He always sought to be fair. In fact, he set some rules for himself. To be fair, always assume there's another point of view. Always allow a retort. He set these rules, which are really good guiding principles. So I don't think it's a case that there's a lack of good journalists in the United States. I think there are good journalists out there. Um, I think the problem is punditry has taken over everything. It really has. And I think the collective media, whether it be CNN or Fox News or other networks, they have a lot to answer for in terms of fueling the culture wars. They really do. And there are populist politicians like Donald Trump, and on the other side, Bernie Sanders and others who also fuel the culture wars. But really, the media is just so, what happened to just adult debate? I'm not saying they should be nice and calm and, not feel passionate about subjects that they're talking about, but there's just so much dumbing down these days. And we get it here too. So I'm not saying the UK situation is perfect. but it's very off-putting. I mean, I remember this even extends to presidential debates. I remember, not because I was alive, I wasn't, but if you look at the Carter Ford debate, it was very dull, right? The Clinton Dole debate, very dull. But actually, the fact that we're dull is a good thing because it means that we're serious. You know, it wasn't based on vacuous sound bites. And I mean, I have to say the presidential debates are, for the most part well put together. I quite like the format, and I think we can learn from that. I think in the UK, for example, we had a bit of a messy situation when we had five or six leaders on stage. Although earlier this year there was like a whole host of Democrats on stage, it was a bit messy. But I think that I'm not just talking about Navarro. There's others as well um, who really like the sound of their own voice, and I can't begrudge that because I'm ambitious. If I was in their shoes, I would be opinionated. But I also think you need to be professional enough to understand the optics of how it looks. Now, the fact that people support that to me is an unfortunate indicator that people go for sensationalism over serious issues. And what they were talking about was a serious issue, immigration. But is it too much to ask that one person has this opinion, another person has that opinion, and they just respectfully listen to each other and then debate it through rather than just yelling at each other? Um, So, I mean, for me, looking at that, whatever her arguments were, that was off-putting. I'm thinking, well, that's not a way to convince people to your argument, however strong your argument might be. So let me know your thoughts if you're in the States, if you're anywhere else. And this isn't unique to Britain and America. I'm sure it can be found in other countries, but it's just very obnoxious. And there's this really nauseating thing that I do see in the United States, like, oh, she's so badass. I'm sorry, being unprofessional, yelling in people's faces is not badass. It's just a bit obnoxious. Sorry to be blunt about it, but that's honestly how I see it. I mean, okay, you could say I'm really opinionated in these videos, but this is just my opinions. If I was in a debate with someone, I would understand that just yelling at them isn't the way to convince a wider audience. It just isn't.